All right, so just lesson 52 functions, basic concepts and notation. And here are some definitions that I think should be pretty much a review. So the biggest, I think the biggest one here is the definition of a function. You can't see the funny face I'm making underneath my mask, sorry. A relation is a function where every input value corresponds to exactly one output value. I always like to think of like vending machines when I think about functions. You put your money in, that's your input. You push the button for what you want, and that thing comes out, and it's only that thing. It can't, if you push the Mountain Dew button, you don't get a Diet Sprite. And then for the variables, independent is input. I mean, that's pretty easy way to remember that. Dependent is output. And how can we tell if a graph is a function? Remember that one? Yes, you do. As soon as I say it, you're going to go, oh yeah, I remember that. The vertical line test, if you draw a vertical line and it passes through only one point, or at most one point on the graph, then your graph is a function. So in other words, the graph doesn't kind of double over on itself. In terms of a table of values, each input value occurs only once. All right, so your homework is going to look a lot like this. Here's a function. F of x is equal to x squared plus 1. Find the following values. So how do we find f of 3?
Square.
Yeah, plug 3 in for x. So that would be 3 squared. Blah. Plus 1, which is a total of 10. Same thing for f of -2, plug -2 in. Now, if you use a calculator, you would need to make sure the -2 went in parentheses. Because we're squaring whatever x is, in this case, x is -2. If you didn't use parentheses, what your calculator would do is it would square the 2 and then make it negative. That's not what we want. So this one is 5. Excellent. All right. Part C, you're told x squared plus 1 equals plus 1 equals 6. Now you need to solve for x. So what do I do? Yep, subtract 1. And then take the square root. And when I take the square root, I need to remember that I get both positive and negative values. You could be given an expression instead of a value to plug in. So if we want to find f of m plus 2, I'm going to take m plus 2 squared and then add 1 to it. Now there's a shortcut way to do m plus 2 the quantity squared. You square the first thing, so m squared, plus you double the product. So if I have m times 2, 2m, and then I double it, 4m, plus the last term squared, 2 squared is 4, plus 1. And then we can combine our like terms. This is not an equation, so you're not going to solve, you're not going to figure out what m is because it's not an equation. This is your answer. Don't need to try to factor it, don't need to use the quadratic formula. You're done with that answer. A couple other things you could see. 3 times f of 4 literally means take 3 and multiply by the answer you get when you plug 4 into your function. Four squared is 16 plus 1, 17, and 3 times 17 is 51. When I was student teaching, when I was student teaching in actually middle school, I had a student that, just 3 times 17, and just, I mean, hardly got the words out of my mouth, and he had 51, just like that. I was like, how did you know that? He said, well, when I play darts, a triple 17 is 51 points. So he knew from something other than in a classroom, that multiplication, which is kind of cool. I thought it was cool anyway. All right, f of -1 divided by 2. We're going to take -1 squared plus 1 and divide that answer by 2. What's -1 squared plus 1? 2, yeah, and 2 divided by 2 gives us an answer of 1. So that's kind of what you're going to be doing today. Just a lot of find the value of the function.